Feature Fridays. My name's Guy Bartram. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for our cloud providers in VMware, and I'm joined today by Shady. Welcome, Shady. I think this is your first time on Feature Fridays, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my first time. Hello, everyone. My name is Shadi. I'm Senior Staff Multi-Cloud Architect with VMware. So excited to be here with you, Guy, on the Feature Friday.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on, Shady, and thanks for saying that. Well, first of all, thank you for writing an excellent white paper, and secondly, thanks for agreeing to come on board Feature Friday and just describe what you've done. So, you've written a white paper about Kubernetes as a service with Cloud Director, covering a lot of different components. What was kind of the requirement behind you kind of getting down into delivering a white paper on that?
Yeah, so starting with the driver behind that. So since we released as VMware Container Service Extension 4.0 and the subsequent versions, we started to have like full story of a Kubernetes as a service offering for our service providers and cloud partners, right?
Yeah.
The issue that I have seen while dealing with multiple partners trying to achieve that goal is that there was no like a single location where the partner can go and understand the full story of Kubernetes as a service offering on top of VMware Cloud Director. So that was like the main driver behind developing that white paper, is to offer a single paper that goes through the architecture on a high level of how to provide a Kubernetes as a service offering as a service provider. What components do I need? What are the mandatory components? What are the optional value-added services that I can add? How I can do the reporting, how I can do the chargeback to my tenants, how I can get revenue out of it, right? And also, I can say the secondary driver behind that white paper as well is to shed some light on the security element around it. So part of the white paper, as we will show, includes some security elements around the different components making the whole Kubernetes as a service offering.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, as you say, Container Service Extension 4.0 was a new architecture. It was a whole more kind of integrated cluster as a service experience with VCD. And there's a lot now of solutions that partners can utilize with zero cost to them, which I don't think, as you say, a lot of partners are struggling to kind of get their heads around how to construct the service offering, how they could package the service offering, how to meter for it, what additional services could they provide. And when you look at the kind of the integrated Tanzu components in vSphere, having the versions with TKG of Harbor and Prometheus and things like that are really, they're sitting there waiting. So this is an excellent opportunity for cloud providers to really understand what they can now deliver with Cloud Director and all of these integrated component solutions.
Yes, exactly. Like from my experience dealing with our cloud partners, I found out that most of them, when they want to start providing Kubernetes as a service offering, they are under the impression that we only have Container Service Extension and that's it. They don't have the idea that there are many other extensions that they can use in the same time with Container Service Extension to augment their platform, not only by providing TKG clusters, and that's it, but you can offer disaster recovery, you can offer application delivery experience, you can offer Tanzu data solutions on top, right? And all of that was like my main driver to spend effort and write this white paper.
Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at the paper, Shirley. So when you're looking at all of these different options, then what did you actually pick out in the paper, and kind of why did you think about, like you said, DR, but there's also backup, there's container ingress firewalling. There's a bunch of stuff you can now do. What was your kind of low-hanging fruit for the actual paper itself?
So this white paper is focusing on our main products, that is delivering the full Kubernetes as a service solution. So I'm covering mainly 4 products under the umbrella of the cloud platform. The container service extension, which is mandatory to start the story with.
Yeah.
Then object storage extension, because this is the component responsible for, let's say, Kubernetes cluster backups. And if you want to provide some sort of DR to your Kubernetes clusters, I'm covering as well App Launchpad, which is the application delivery platform, how utilize App Launchpad to provide marketplace of containerized applications that the tenant can utilize and deploy on their Kubernetes clusters. And finally, I'm covering data solutions extensions, which allows the partners to deploy Tanzu data services on top of their Kubernetes clusters.
And just to add there, I mean, just as a starting point, you mentioned App Launchpad, which is kind of morphing over the next few releases of VCD into the Content Hub. But one of the great things about that is that it not only can publish marketplace items today, VApps and Helm charts, it actually delivers those. I think I can't remember what version of App Launchpad it was, but it actually delivers those now into Tanzu Kubernetes clusters and VMs. And you can extend this and put in your own kind of data services, your own third-party services. If you're doing things, I mean, when we talk about Kubernetes, what we should really also talk about is data services, right? And
exactly.
Things like GPU, AI, ML applications that we can now run on GPU-enabled Kubernetes clusters, which is that's quite unique. And you've got multi-tenancy in there and a bunch of really good stuff. So, yeah, I mean, this is like focusing on the starting blocks, but I think there's extensibility and there's the future where you can deliver so much more. And it's actually already available today, but you've got to get up and running straight away with Kubernetes as a service.
Yeah, sometimes like when I published this document or this white paper, I felt like little bad about my timing of publish, because like 1.5 months after that, we have now CSE 4.1, DSE 1.2. We have another version of OSE, and that Content Hub thing in VCD. So I'm planning actually like 2 months from now, I'm planning another update on that document to add the many great features that we have in the new products, especially around the air-gapped support or air-gapped environments support in CSE and so on.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me quickly walk you through first, like the table of contents here. As I said, like I'm covering the main 4 products: container service extension, object storage extension, App Launchpad, and the data solution extensions, or the long name VMware Cloud Director extension for data solutions, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm covering in this document as well is I'm not covering the architecture in terms of a single site or a single location only. This document assumes a provider that has large cloud platform that is extending across locations. So they have multiple availability zones and so on, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we're gonna have a section here defining the definition of a region or an availability zone in terms of a cloud platform. And then when I go through each component, there are 4 main items or 4 main sections that I'm shedding light on. How to deploy and the best practices around deployment, the networking design, because some components here might need load balancing. I'm specifying these details. Some components might need external access to the internet or to our VMware marketplace. All of that is documented here. Then the lifecycle management, which is around the upgrade cycle, how the provider or what is the areas that the provider should take care of when they are upgrading that component. And finally, the multi-site considerations, right? Because again, we are talking here about larger scale platform.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the final section that I'm focusing on is around reporting, usage reporting. How the provider can do the usage reporting to VMware, and how the provider can utilize the components, APIs, and monitoring, inbuilt monitoring capabilities to provide showback and chargeback to their tenants. How they can get the revenue, because this is one of the points that, although it's up to each provider how to do it, there are areas that we need to shed some light on. Like, let's say, for example, that this solution, you can utilize APIs. This solution might need some sort of scripting that you need to build to do chargeback and so on, right? So these are the main areas that I'm focusing on my white paper from a high level point of view.
Does anything like, say, for example, NSX Federation in VCD 10.5, is that going to make life easier for providers doing this type of multi-site service?
So I'm not like in this document, I'm not focusing specifically around the networking piece in very details. However, to answer your question about NSX Federation support in VCD, in some cases, yes, it will provide more easy configuration and easy infrastructure options to support the multi-site operations. But the point that still needs to be addressed in these products is to support the multi-site operation from the product itself. Like, let's say I have a container service extension in one VCD instance, and I want to deploy to a different VCD instance through multi-site association and so on. This is yet to come in the product itself.
Right. Yeah, got it.
So here is the bill of materials that we assume that our provider would use, because unfortunately I couldn't like make it open to every other version, because there are some features used in these documents that is tied to specific versions of the products. But as much as possible, I tried to make as wide as possible, right? So VCD, NSX Advanced Load Balancer version, vSphere, and the other products as well. I also have here I'm assuming in that document that the object storage platform used is Cloudian Hyperstore with object storage extension. So this is the version of the Cloudian Hyperstore.
Does that matter so much for Kubernetes? I mean, with object storage extension, it could be Ceph, it could be Dell, it could be homegrown, as long as it's S3 compliant, right? That's pretty much.
Yes, as long as you have a compatible SS3 storage with object storage extension, you can use it. However, regarding the multi-site support itself and disaster recovery, Cloudian Hyperstore are offering the multi-region and multi-data center replication policies that might not be available in other SS3 storage platforms, right? So that's why I'm focusing on the Cloudian Hyperstore in here.
Yeah, good to know. Okay.
Then I dive into, again, the definition of a region and definition of an availability zone. And for me, an availability zone is like, it's a single site that is self-sufficient, that has all of the necessary components to establish a cloud platform. This is condition number one. And condition number two, that if your cloud platform consists of different availability zones, a failure of an availability zone should not affect operations in other availability zones, right? So in order to achieve that, you need to have all of these necessary components, starting with Cloud Director, RabbitMQ, the infrastructure pieces, the object storage platform piece, usage meter, chargeback, and the supporting infrastructure.
quite a lot of supporting infrastructure there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And part of the supporting infrastructure is around having your privately managed Helm chart and registries for the Helm chart repository and registries to have a location to save provider managed Helm charts and containerized application images. You can see all of that in this figure in here, where all of components are under the same cloud site or cloud AZ, right? Yeah. And then I am defining the solutions organization, which is a new concept, came up with CSE 4.0 around the provider to have a dedicated managed organization that hosts all of the second and third party solutions integrated into VCD. So I'm diving into the definition of that solution org and its networking, what it requires. And it's pretty simple. You just need access to the internet, to the VCD cells, to the internal DNS servers, and that's it, right? It's pretty basic, nothing there. And then I'm starting with the CSE, which is our mandatory component, I would say, because without CSE, you don't have TKG clusters, right? So it's to offer a basic Kubernetes as a service offering, you need to have CSE. I'm diving into deployment specs, how to deploy, a link to our documentation about the nitty-gritty details of deployment steps, right? And here, another diagram. It is pretty similar to the one before, but with additional green components. So I'm building up as if I'm building up a story. This is your AZ. This is after how you deploy CSE, and then we move forward with the other components as well.
Tell me, just looking there, I just spotted NSX Advanced Load Balancer. So the AVI network solution now, very tightly integrated with VCD. Is there a recommendation on architecturally deploying a separate service group for containers, or can it all be just a part of the normal kind of load balancing, global load balancer service groups?
So it really depends on how architecturally and how the load balancing service is provided to the tenants. Mm-hmm. So I saw some providers who are providing dedicated service groups to the tenants, and they are like billing the tenants to the whole service group because they are providing them dedicated bandwidth, dedicated compute power of these service engine groups. Other partners are billing their tenants on virtual service per virtual service basis. So basically, they are using shared service engine groups between tenants. However, each tenant will get a quota of virtual services.
Yeah.
I would say that the shared service engine group with the quota mechanism would be exhausted much faster than having a dedicated service engine group. So I would say for easier management, the dedicated service engine group would fit more with the Kubernetes as a service offering.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the size of the customer, right? Because you're not going to want to deploy compute for a dedicated service engine for small customers who just want a small Kubernetes cluster. You're going to need to figure out kind of what sort of throughput they're going to require based on
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And the anticipated number of services and applications they will deploy in their TKG clusters as well.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the networking piece around the basic networking, load balancing, that CSE, if you have multiple CSE instances, you don't need a load balancing. However, the NSX Advanced Load Balancer is a requirement to have a fully functional CSE, right? Because CSE depends on NSX Advanced Load Balancer to create all of the load balancer type Kubernetes services for the cluster API, for example, or user applications, right? And here we are talking about the external accessibility and the internal accessibility. And mainly these are around how CSE servers requires internet access to the TKG cluster to pull all of the required binaries to have a fully self-managed cluster, and that we need a GitHub API token as well. And all of that are detailed in here. Regarding the internal accessibility and integration, that's basically around the internal communication between CSE and the other internal components in the environment. And then comes to one of the most important pieces, which is the traffic flow and communication metrics. And basically, this is the security piece that I was talking here. I did my best finding enough details around.
Okay, so you got your SNAT and DNAT kind of suggestions there as well. Okay.
Yeah, as well. So this is like to show all of the traffic flow going back and forth between CSE and any other different component in the environment. It's color tagged, and we have legends in here to make it easier to grasp. And any other table here detailing the traffic flows are following the same tag and color code, right? With enough details around the traffic flows, right?
That is great, yeah.
And also, if the component required access to something, we detail the NAPS rules around and the purpose, right? So I followed the same for the other components as I'm going to show later on. Here, the lifecycle management for CSE. What are the components that CSE depends on? So to upgrade CSE, you need to check the VMware interoperability matrix for all of the supported versions of these components with CSE, and as well the TKG versions that are supported with CSE as well. And finally, the multi-site considerations. Unfortunately, right now, each CSE can serve only the local VCD instance that is attached to. Like we all know that VCD has that great feature about multi-site association, where you can have multiple VCD instances in a single pane of glass, and you can view your resources across all of the VCD instances. And you can use that to deploy resources in any of these VCD instances. However, CSE, although the resources are shown, you need to have separate CSE plugins that match to different VCD instances. So let's say that you have AZ1 and AZ2, the user will have two Kubernetes cluster plugin in the UI, one for AZ1 and one for AZ2. They cannot have like a single plugin that connects to any of the CSE servers and any of the sites to deploy clusters automatically.
I didn't know that. Okay, so yeah, so in that respect, you need a separate account in the CSE login, but that's a part of the role-based access control for VCD, is it not?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So what happens is that when you integrate CSE with the VCD server, the Kubernetes plugin in that VCD instance starts to serve the users with the capabilities around that CSE instance in the local side. Now, if you have two VCD instances associated in a multi-site association, and you have org association and all of that, and the user can access the plugins in site A and site B, the plugin will not be unified under one plugin, and then you can select which CSE server that you deploy to or whatsoever. You will have like two separate plugins. It's a bit of like not non-optimal user experience, but
well, yeah, I think it's actually okay. I'm just thinking from the context of the user logging in. You know, they go to their, what is it, add-ons tab, and they'll drop that down there, see OSE, CSE, DSE, etc.
Yeah.
But what we'd do then is we'd rename one of them to be on AZ1 CSE, AZ2 CSE.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Site
quite
innovation.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, at least then you know which one you're logging into. It's when you've got like 10 or 12 sites that it might get a little bit confusing.
Yeah. So that's why, like, This document assumes like larger scale cloud providers. We have some pretty big cloud providers with multiple VCD instances, and I'm assuming that this would be a nice addition if we can have like that automatic selection of which CSE instance you are deploying to. But yeah, that's something to come in the future.
I mean, CSE is published to the org, right? So you would limit the org by which AZs they've got access to in any case. So
yeah,
you could potentially only ever see two, like your primary and your secondary.
yes, exactly. So it really depends on multiple factors, whether the tenant is allowed to have multi-site deployment or not, or does the tenant purchased or agreed with the provider to have resources on different sites, or just like a local site with less SLA and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So the next piece is around object storage extension. We followed the same hierarchy, deployment specs. Then if you see here on the diagram, CSE was already there because we built that in the previous section. Now we added the object storage extension and its backend databases. So it's kind of built up with each component. The thing that I want to show under OSE that even the load balancing the specs that OSE requires for multi-node OSE instance, I already detailed in here. So what is the recommended virtual service configuration? What is the recommended health monitoring and so on? And also the other thing that I want to show is around, again, the traffic flow and communication metrics for OSE. So how OSE deals with every aspect in the environment, especially how the OSE as well pull the backup traffic from the Kubernetes cluster and how it pushes the backup traffic in case of restore as well. So all of that is detailed here in the traffic table, and the NAT rules.
You also, I mean, looking at the backup, sorry, you're looking at which tool is it that Kubernetes uses? Is it Grafana?
No, Velero and Copia.
Velero, that's right.
Yeah, Velero and Copia. So we are using Velero and Copia for the backups and restores in the Kubernetes, and this is actually one of the URLs that OSE or the TQG clusters would need to have that allowed to access. So if you have sort of next generation firewall that sits on the internet route from the tenant resources to the internet, you need to allow that URL in order to have these binaries pulled and installed on the cluster and have a successful backup and restore.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the multi-site considerations, I'm talking here as well around the multi-data center setup that is offered by Cloud and Hyperstore, and that is basically sort of replication mechanism between two different Hyperstore clusters to replicate the user data, and OSE supports that replication topology. So actually, if the user is building a bucket on site A and put some objects inside that bucket gets replicated according to their multi-data center setup.
Yeah.
And if the user accesses the OSE from site 2, they will find the data already there and they can do read and write operations. So that is typically what we are using in the same sense, backing up Kubernetes clusters to the object storage platform. The backup gets replicated, and if you want to restore, you just restore from the second site if you need to in case of a disaster.
Yeah, pretty cool solution.
Yeah, and again, the third one is App Launchpad, and following the same architecture and deployment best practices, we added our App Launchpad nodes here. what are the URLs that ALB needs to access in case of internet connectivity. And again, the traffic flow, the traffic flow and communication metrics, it might be a little more complex in case of ALP because we are accessing different internet components.
They could be local repositories as well, though, if you wanted it to be.
Yes,
right? I mean,
and this is mentioned in here. So
you go,
actually,
yeah.
you can have your Helm chart repository and the provider managed registry for your containerized applications instead of depending on our Bitnami sources. So you can have your secured, hardened application images and Helm charts and so on. And again, all of that is being offered now with VCD 10.5 through Content Hub. So Content Hub right now has the ability to deploy containerized applications directly from VCD without needing to have ALB installed and configured.
So I think, there's an important kind of value add for partners there. Like you can download the marketplace services from VMware. You can then curate whatever you want to offer to tenants. But note that these are basically open source solutions. VMware has done some security testing, some functional testing on them. But they're not necessarily things you'd want to run into production because they don't have any support on them, for example. And you're following the open source build release schedule, which may or may not be appropriate. So that's where you can come in and add value with Tanzu Application Platform, for example, or Tanzu Application Catalog. I never know which one it is. But the one where you can get from VMware all of the curated, supported enterprise-grade level developer apps and solutions.
And you can upload them into your registry, have them published through App Launchpad into a marketplace experience, integrated into the VCD UI itself. So the tenant can go in there, find the market of the different container applications. They can pull the applications, they can create catalogs, their own like tenant managed catalogs with subset of these applications into these catalogs to the users, to the tenant users, to the end users.
I think that's really cool about this is you as a service provider, you're giving your customers kind of guardrails to protect on what their developers actually use to develop the products on. And I think this is important because developers have access to hundreds of thousands of different open source applications. You don't want your application to be running in the Wild West with no kind of control over it or over what they use and how they use it. And this is really important as we look more at kind of privacy data and data protection coming down to the code level in what developers should be using in their customers.
Yeah, and that's also with the new initiatives, something like sovereign cloud initiatives and so on. So sovereign cloud partners actually might not be allowed to use public containerized images, for example. So they need to have sort of solution where they can provide secured, hardened, containerized applications to their tenants, which are actually secure tenants, I would say. All right, so this is where all of the App Launchpad helps you with, right? So it really covered both ends of the spectrum, from completely loose security, something like what you do, let's say when you use hyperscaler Kubernetes solution, you deploy whatever you want. You put a VM there or Kubernetes cluster there, you deploy whatever you want, up to the other end of the spectrum of the sovereign cloud and the secured providers or gov providers and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so moving on under the application story, the last piece is the data solution extension, right, which offers the Tanzu data solutions specifically. So data solutions is something a bit similar to App Launchpad, but they are focusing on a certain use case, which is providing the enterprise-grade Tanzu data solutions that is secured and tested by VMware as part of Tanzu family, as a service on top of the TKG clusters of CSE, right? So, and we are here assuming version 1.1, which supported the Tanzu RabbitMQ and the PostgreSQL, Tanzu PostgreSQL. However, now we have 1.2 with Mongo database as well. So yeah, I told you my timing around that is pretty bad. So
yeah, I mean, it's important to recognize as well, these aren't just like database as a service kind of instances. You could do that today from the VMware marketplace. You can go and grab MySQL or NoSQL, Postgres, whatever you want. This is also managing the life cycle of the service, which is key because you're going to have customers going to want to upgrade their database and their data services, and DSE is going to allow you to do that, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like a bit clear here, is that within each new version of DSE, a new data solution packages comes with it.
Yeah.
So let's say you are on 1.1, now you are coming to 1.2. That might include a new version of the Tanzu RabbitMQ, Tanzu PostgreSQL.
Yeah.
And that allows you to have that simpler lifecycle management on your data solutions. And out of the box, all of these data solutions are offered in different flavors, like in terms of the sizing of the application. And you have also full control as a tenant user to modify and edit the application spec yourself. So let's say you are deploying RabbitMQ instance with certain CPU and memory, maybe the out-of-the-box sizes that you have might not fit your needs. You can use DSE to edit the YAML file yourself, add whatever parameters you need, and just click deploy, and that gets deployed based on the Tanzu RabbitMQ image itself.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool solution, and that's going to grow as well, right? So MongoDB was added. You've got
in 1.2.
Yeah, you've got capabilities now for analytics and scale really as well. So it's starting to address much more the data service kind of capabilities. And I think this is where, like, for me, if you're not delivering a container infrastructure today, then you're missing out on an opportunity, because the scope of the conversations, like obviously VMs and workloads are always going to be around, but the next gen stuff is all coming on container solutions with bolted on data analytics type services, and also machine learning that's going to help them achieve competitive edge. And this has been done on a project by project basis. And some customers feel the only route to market for that is to go to a hyperscaler. And that presents some challenges, particularly around data privacy and cost and things like that. What people don't realize is this is available from your friendly neighborhood cloud service provider. And this is, I think, where we've got a great opportunity with our cloud providers to start talking about this and start delivering this.
Yeah, and to your point, Guy, here is that the local cloud provider partners, we have massive network of cloud provider partners. Like here in Egypt, we have like 3 cloud provider partners beside the hyperscalers, right? ISO partners that manage to offer the same service with VMware flavor and, let's say, fraction of the cost of the hyperscaler, right? So locality, semi-regulations, cost, and sometimes might be factors that favors our local cloud partners versus the hyperscalers. So it doesn't mean that because they are hyperscalers, they have large market shares that I cannot compete in the same realm or the same field. Our cloud partners have a great chance to compete with their own service offerings, with their own edges, versus the hyperscalers.
Yeah.
Also, regarding the AI ML workloads, it's nice to know that CSE and VCD supports deploying TQG clusters that has GPU profiles. So our TQG clusters deployed by CSE can benefit from the GPU power that you have in your infrastructure to offer Kubernetes infrastructure to AI ML workloads, right? And again, something like MongoDB can be used to host massive scale datasets that serve these AI ML applications as well.
Yeah, and multi-tenant GPU as well, which is quite unique.
Yes.
I think that there's a ton of benefits for talking to a cloud service provider versus a hyperscaler. I mean, firstly, you're going to get support. You're going to get one-to-one, and the SLA on that you won't get support from a hyperscaler unless you're a massive enterprise. Number two, security. It's the same networking architecture and security capability that you've got on-prem, but better, arguably. It's in the service provider. They've got broader experience. Three is that experience. You're able to talk to people about projects that you need to do and talk to the people who know about this stuff, because everyone's suffering with skills and resources shortages, particularly when you start talking about data services. I saw this crazy thing on the register the other day. It was something like AWS is hiring data science developers, and they're paying them well over $500,000 as a salary. And it's like, that sort of space is so high in demand at the moment. And cloud providers, if they don't have those capabilities inside their organization, they can partner with other partners to deliver it, deliver the right solution. And then you've got other things like, sustainability, where your workloads are, control over where your data is going to be by different availability zones within the cloud provider region. There's so many different things. And I think people think of like public cloud and they just think of hyperscalers. For me,
yes,
that's
exactly.
that's commercial cloud, that hyperscalers. Public cloud for me is our public cloud providers with VCD delivering shared services. And delivering public cloud services, and like Kubernetes as a service, everything as a service, and that's what public cloud should be.
Yeah, and I can tell you, because I'm dealing with cloud provider partners day and night. This is part of my job, right? So I dealt with many partners in EMEA and EU and America around that, and I can tell you that each cloud provider, small or big, has their own edge versus the other cloud providers and the hyperscalers, be it the fraction of the cost, be it like value added services like professional service or support or whatever, right? But each cloud provider partner has its own flavor, has its own edge within a single country or a single region. You can find competing cloud provider partners. For sure, one of them can fit your needs, and some cloud partners as well take it to the limit that they can tailor solutions to specific needs of some customers if they are like if they can give the cost or accept the cost, right? So yeah, we have a massive, crazy network of our cloud provider partners.
Slightly off topic there, but it's all related in terms of getting this Kubernetes as a service kind of off the ground.
Yes, exactly. So the last piece that I want to show in our document is the usage reporting, which again, basically, I'm talking here about how the provider should do the reporting to VMware to use such products. And the main source of truth for me here in that in these sections is the our product usage guide. So you will find that for each component, I'm giving them like a high-level overview about that, but for more information, refer to the latest product usage guide. So you will find similar info in here, similar to here. But the section that I want to focus on and the chargeback, right? because in the end, our cloud partners is doing all of these innovation and services because there is a revenue, a return of investment out of it. So, and tenant chargeback is the core piece for the return of investment. How the provider can do tenant chargeback and show back, right, for each of these products. And this is where I am giving a high-level guidance for that. Like, for example, for CSE, either the provider can use VMware chargeback, or they can use CSE APIs and develop custom extensibility to pull all of the attributes that they need and feed it to an external billing system, right?
Yeah. And of course, that's the challenge with chargeback is, you've got, it's a lovely functionality, but it's not always going to have like the latest thing in it. And number two, it probably will have it in it, but in its initial form, maybe, or initial version of that feature being released in chargeback, it may not be the way you want it to be.
Exactly.
So it does impact your ability to do showback. But what I found in my experience is typically most service providers, because they're doing, the infrastructure service, they're doing the managed service, the professional services, the, DR services, whatever, they have their own systems to calculate cost. And typically they'll use like the APIs that are available from the solution to go and grab, the detail from however they've done it, tagging in vCenter at its most basic level to kind of integrating with chargeback and pulling out metrics from there, which are predefined in pricing policies. So yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. In one way you want it all there, but then it's never going to be there exactly how you want it there. And number two is you've really invested a lot in a customer relationship management system, billing systems, and all the back-end systems, which a lot of providers, for example, need to correlate information around the infrastructure so they can actually do customer kind of code lookups and things like that. So yeah, it's like, I think it's one of those things. It's nice to have if you've got a very, very simple as a service cloud, but once you start going into the real complexities of driving more differentiation into your cloud, more services, you're going to find chargeback is, it's not necessarily going to provide you everything you need.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you, Guy. And that's why, I tried as much as possible to provide the two approaches. So for each component, I provided the out-of-the-box chargeback approach or the alternative approach. Same for cool. Same for object storage extension, because we have a great integration as well with the chargeback. This is one. There are two alternative approaches, either to use the Cloudian Hyperstore APIs or with the latest version release of OSE, which has a public API endpoint for tenant metrics. You can pull, that was easier, or that makes things easier. So instead of depending on Cloud and Hyperstore APIs, you can just pull the data out of OSE directly. And I followed the same for the other components, whether it's App Launchpad or it's whether it's App Launchpad or Data Solution Extension. So unfortunately, for these two, there is no chargeback integration, so that you have the APIs to deal with them.
At the end of the day, if you're going to make an investment in chargeback, it's going to need to be API based, unfortunately.
Yes, API driven with automated scripts or automated extensibility to show back the tenant consumption and do the billing and the calculations and so on.
Exactly. Okay, so that's about it, isn't it, for the document? I mean, that was it's pretty comprehensive, and I love to see the way you've kind of linked out to other blogs and official documentation so people can read more. I think this is going to be a really nice guide for partners to just get started on the Kubernetes as a service. kind of journey.
Yeah, I totally wish that this effort be beneficial to our cloud provider partners. At least give them a holistic, if not the nitty-gritty details, it will be a holistic overview about the whole Kubernetes as a service story with VCD.
Yeah, and we'll look forward then, Shadi, to an update coming up in the next few months. You realize now you're going to be completely updating this every 6 months.
Yeah, like it's gonna be massive effort to catch on with the new releases, new additions of features, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fast-moving area for VMware, for our partners. You've seen the rapid kind of development of data solutions, the velocity now that we're starting to get up to cadence with that. I mean, CSE has changed beyond belief from kind of 1.0 to now where we're at 4.1, 4.2s to be later in the year. And these will keep evolving. So more functionality will become exposed, more options for great services that you can offer as a service to your tenants. It's a really fast moving environment.
Yes, totally agree.
Well, Shadi, I'll put the link to the documentation down below. So check out the link to documentation. And if there's any feedback, is there a way that people can reach out to you? I guess on the Slack channel will probably be a good idea.
Yeah, reach out to me on the Slack channel or LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm available on these 3 platforms.
Brilliant. Shadi, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate you running us through the documentation, and thank you for writing it on behalf of our cloud providers. I say thank you. I'm sure they're going to appreciate the capabilities and knowledge it presents. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.